All right, here we are again at ICS home office. We're going to do a little training today with our office personnel and a few others, just a recap on what we do here at ICS. If we're doing a quality inspection for our crews, we're going to look for some stuff, especially like right here. We have a split pipe boot that's going to cause a leak. We have some holes up in here, usually caused from one of the other departments like the siding crews or sometimes the stone crews. If they use scaffolding, they hook it to the roof. They poke holes in the shingles with their scaffolding, pull them out, don't fill the holes or don't let us know that we need to repair that shingle. In a case like this where there's a clean hole through that shingle, we need to replace that shingle. So a lot of times when we send in for these VPOs, this is what we're dealing with. Broken shingles, we see these broken shingles here, we definitely need to take care of that. We look across here, we have a very narrow row. These are supposed to be at about 5.5 inches of spacing. We have a narrow row like this. You can see it doesn't adhere very well. The wind can get a hold of this and tear it off. So we want to make sure that these are spaced evenly and staggered correctly. That way we don't have this issue right here where probably the wind took this one off. Overhang. See how this is curling down and it's splitting, okay? A little too much overhang. We want to typically keep this at about 3/4 inch to 1 inch maximum. So the recommendation on the overhang is 3/4 inch after everything is finished. Now we have a flat fascia here, so we don't want to have this out here like 3 inches as it is. You get the roll down, the splitting, wind can get a hold of it, tear it off. We don't want to see that. We got some fascia damage. Sometimes the guys that put the ladders up against the fascia trim damage the fascia trim. That one's on us. So we want to make sure that our guys aren't leaning those ladders up and causing any damage to the other contractors. The other side we had a 3-tab shingle. This here is called an architectural shingle. So the difference is the lamination of the shingle. It's a doubled thickness and a much stronger adhesive on this shingle, a much better application with the exception of a couple of things here. So this is one of those lead pipe boots. And the one thing that they did wrong on this one was that they covered the base of it completely with the shingles. So what happens here is water will get down inside here and trap and run under the shingles, causing deck damage. So we want to make sure that we leave the bottom of the pipe boot exposed and we seal around it from top down to the sides. That way no water can get in. And if it does get under the edge of the shingles here, it can run off and out. Right here, we're going to see what's called an exposed nail. And this is caused by nailing the shingle a little bit too far down. It's below the nailing line. So, and when they put the next shingle up, it doesn't quite cover it. So we want to make sure that we don't have this. This is going to cause a problem probably 2, maybe 3 years down the road when it starts rusting and deteriorating. So we want to make sure that we don't have any of those on that roof. So this is all of these things are part of my quality inspection when I go up on a roof, whether it be for a re-roof or new construction. So this nail was really too low, and if you look closely you can see it's already rusted. That's what happens when the water hits the head of that nail. It'll start deteriorating quite rapidly. Looking at the holes in the edge of the roof up here, we have from one of the other trades, we don't know which, but these shingles definitely need to be replaced whenever we find these. That's pretty much it as far as my inspection goes. Oh, one last thing. Very important also, up here on the ridge vents, okay? So this is what's called a Cobra 3 ridge vent, okay? This is installed for ventilation of the attic system. And then we use the capping shingles over the top of them. This is what's called a shingle over ridge vent. So this plastic ridge vent goes down first. We nail it with these 3-inch ring shank nails. We see this, the guys not using these nails have to be used in the ridge vent itself and the shingles. We have to use these. So this is one of my biggest pet peeves, is not seeing these nails in those shingles. It's really, really important, because a 50-mile-an-hour wind with the regular gun nails will tear those shingles off, where it won't with these. So we're going to actually build us a roof today. As you can see, we have a bare deck over here. We stripped it off nice and clean. We'll get started with a couple of the components that go on our roof. So the first thing is our synthetic felt. Typically, the framers will install this and it'll be ready for us. This is a synthetic felt. We don't use the tar paper anymore because this is just such a much better product. It lasts longer, it's more durable, we can leave it exposed longer, it doesn't wrinkle after installation. That's one of our first components that go on the roof. Secondly, we have what's called a starter strip shingle. So this comes in a bundle like the regular shingles. This is actually 2-in-1. You guys tear it apart and there's your starter seal at the bottom of it and your shingle right there. Our 3-tab shingle, and the reason it's called the 3-tab shingle, 1, 2, 3 tabs, exposure. Here's our architectural shingle. Our architectural laminated shingle, this is the GAF Timberline series of shingle. As you can see, it has a line right across here. This is where we nail our shingle. So much more durable, longer lasting shingle. Here is one of the standard pipe boots that we use. So this is for our penetrations. As you can see, like a plumbing vent. We have over here a section of the Cobra Ridge vents that we use. I'm going to grab my safety glasses. These here are what's called a button cap or a cap nail. This is what we use to attach our felt. We start off with the felt. We take our little button cap, set it on there. Come around. Make sure that we're careful. Okay. So we're going to make sure we nail this nice and secure so it lays nice and flat, giving us a smooth surface. And then we'll come back and trim off the excess. All right, now we're ready to start shingling. So this is the nailer that all our guys use. So we plug it in like this, giving it air, and it should be ready. We'll test it. All set. So going back to the starter strips, we want to hang this off the edge of the roof about 1 inch, and if we follow along the seal strip, that is about 1 inch up from the edge of the shingle. So we're going to nail it here, 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 and here, giving it 4 nails. We'll come back and finish off the row. Keeping it nice and even. Cut it off. Okay. And then we have to do up the sides of it as well. I like to come down all the way giving us a nice firm corner. Catching it there. Okay, there's our starter strips. We're ready to start shingling.
So he felted it all correctly, right? The inspectors, they don't get on roofs. So whenever you hear these third-party inspectors, when they look, they lift one tab. But you see, there's one little portion that didn't get felt. And they love to say, they look at this, there's no felt on the roof. And you guys will see that there's no felt on the roof, get it inspected. All we got to do is prove that it's one section. That comes up a lot. And I've had to argue that no, it's felted. It's just, and especially the framers use a toe board around the edges of the roof. And so when they're doing this portion of it, that toe board is basically the size of this. They can't do it because it's a piece of wood is what the toe board is. And when
so they're skipping over it.
They skip that area. Once they get off the roof, they start removing it. So basically, the last 2 inches of the roof are always left without it. The roofers sometimes, they're not gonna make that a big deal. We have been making it a big deal lately because all the inspectors are coming out and saying there's no felt on this roof. And then they hold us accountable because you can't cover up bad over bad is what the saying is in the industry. You gotta make that aware that there's bare wood. You can't put shingles on bare wood.
So the importance of the felt is to keep moisture out of the roof deck itself. So it's going to repel the moisture, keeping it off the roof deck. So I'm going to say next to 100% of the roof decks now are OSB or zip system, which is an OSB with a membrane on it, adhered to it. So we want to make sure that this stays dry. It is extremely important that this stays dry. So this helps with sweating, and of course, rain keeps the elements out. On these shingles, they all have it, are these little notches on the top for staggering. So if we line up our shingles with these notches, it's going to stay perfectly spaced all the way across. So we're going to start with a full shingle on the left side, because I'm right-handed, so I always start left to right. We're going to line this shingle up with our starter cores, our starter strips, keeping it nice and even, doubled. You have our seal strip right here. That's going to help hold those shingles down on the edge of the roof. So your nailing pattern for your 3-tab shingles is a 4-nail nailing pattern, or if we want extra strength, we can use a 6-pattern nail pattern. But I'm going to show you the 4 pattern right here. So we're going to put one right here, here, and here. So this is where we like to see our nails. Whenever I'm inspecting a roof, I want to make sure that these nails are just short of the seal strip. That's the perfect place to nail those according to the instructions. So we want to make sure our guys follow these instructions and make sure that, you know, these are nailed properly. If you nail too high up here, that can cause blow up or tear off. The wind can get a hold of them and take them right off the roof. So we don't ever want to see nails way up here. Okay, so next shingle, we'll grab another 3-tab shingle, a few more. I'm going to set that up there just like that. A little bit high on that one, right there. And I'm going to put an extra one up here just because it's going to be a short shingle. The row's 6 inches, giving us a nice even spacing on our shingles so it looks good. And we're going to nail it. There we go. We always save our cut off pieces because we may be able to use them either on the end or as another starter piece. So there's our second row started, and then of course we'll go up to our third row. And what I'm lining up, so first is my 6-inch, and then I'm also lining up this section here, which is called the keyway. I want my next shingle to be at the top of that keyway not covering it too much. We want to be right at the top of it. That'll keep us nice and even. Just like that. So as you can see, this keyway will line up with this one. And as you go up the roof, those keyways will line up and it'll look really, really nice. They used to allow us to do what's called racking. Now racking is when you take your shingles, so let's start with a full shingle, a 6-inch cutoff, the second row, and then the third row, they'll actually put here, and they'll run this in a vertical pattern all the way up the elevation. When that happens, that's called racking, and we don't want to see this because what happens is the water can get here, start running down, go under the next one, and so on, until it starts leaking. It goes down about 4 or 5 rows, it gets to the roof deck, and then of course we wind up with a leak. So we don't ever want to see racking of shingles. Always the stair-step pattern, 6-inch stagger, and that's the appropriate way to install your 3-tab shingles. Our architectural shingles, a lot stronger, much different design for a better look and durability. Again, we'll start with our full shingle. We line it up appropriately and we nail. With the architectural shingles, you can use 4. That's the minimum recommended amount of nails that you can use in that shingle. I like 6. So 6 is a much stronger application, and as you can see, I left a little bit bigger space here than I did everywhere else. The 6-nail pattern is much stronger, and it also gives us a higher wind rating for the shingles. About 6 inches on the first cut for our next row, and then we go to 11 inches on our third row. So roughly 6 inches, which is that shingle right there. So we want to watch for a couple of things when we're nailing. One being an underdriven nail, secondly, an overdriven nail. So an overdriven nail, when it punches through the shingle, will cause a problem. The shingle could slip out, so we don't want to have any of that. Part of my inspection process is I will come by, lift up a shingle randomly on a roof and look for spacing of the nails and also how they're driven, making sure that they're not driven at an angle. They've got to be nice and straight, 90 degrees to the deck and not overdriven. You can stagger pretty much any way. You don't have to worry about the keyways like on the 3-tab shingle. So we line it up, and so here's our coil nails that go in the nail gun, and as you can see, they're rolled up in a coil. And what we're going to do is we're going to open our gun, we're going to drop this in, and we're going to feed it down to the head of the nail gun. Close it, lock it in, and then of course we're going to test it to make sure everything is good. Like a Tommy gun, just like a Tommy gun. So these guns, they are very, very dangerous. So unlike any other nail gun, these guns, if you hold the trigger down, it will fire as soon as the head touches something. So you don't have to compress and fire. It's the right way to do it, but if you're holding that trigger firmly and it hits anything, it will go off. So we want to be very, very careful that we're not holding the trigger when we set the gun down. So you'll see our guys doing it, and you'll hear them when they're nailing shingles on a site. You're going to hear this. That's how fast that they nail shingles. I can't do it that fast. We want to make sure that we do not have our finger on the trigger when we're handling the gun until we're ready to fire it. Getting back to nailing our shingle on, one up here, one over here. On our architectural shingle, this area right here is called our strike zone. So all our nails want to be within that 1.5 inch area. If they're outside that area, it's not good nailing. So we want to make sure that our guys are nailing in the correct areas. Make sure we're lined up down here, okay, just like that. We're going to put a nail, one nail here, so set the gun down and then pull the trigger. So we want to be in the lower part of that strike zone, right there where you're at, and one pull, quick pull of the trigger. So we want to try to get the bottom of that strike zone. That is the absolute best area to hit on this shingle. So we're going to put one about here.
All right, nice and even.
There you go. And then one here, if you would. All right, very good. What we're going to do is line that shingle up, making sure that we're right here. Okay? And if you would, right there, sir. Perfect. And then we'll come over here, here, and here. Perfect. Even the architectural shingles have to be staggered a specific way or they will fail. In re-roof, okay, if we don't stagger these appropriately and we have a failure, okay, the first thing they're going to look at is the installation, okay? If the installation is incorrect, they won't warranty the roof, okay? Even on our new construction stuff, if these shingles are not staggered correctly, the customer has no warranty. So if they have shingle failure, like granules, excessive granules coming off the roof, that can be a manufacturer defect, or if the lamination comes apart in any way, or if there's a adhesive failure, then we go back to the manufacturer, and if it's a failure that they know of, we can get that roof replaced for the customer. So, all right, next.
Right here?
Not there because you're almost missing the roof.
Okay.
So we're going to move over just a bit. So your first nail on the edge of the roof is going to be about 3 inches in. Okay. And that way you don't get that nail sticking out the bottom. So, yep, whenever you're ready, it's going to jump. There you go, you got two. Okay?
Okay.
If we pull it, that leaves a hole, and we have to change that shingle out. So we're going to drive those nails down, okay? And trimming around the penetrations doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be real close, because we're going to install a fixture on that in a few minutes. And we're going to get one like right about here, where my finger is. Yeah, move my finger. One quick one. Oh, push. There you go. Very good.
Yes.
Just like that. Just like that. Okay, lefty, that's right. I remember that. Okay, and I need a nail about 3 inches in from the edge, right here. Oh, damage. Yep. Okay, and then one here. Okay, and then one up here. I don't want that shingle to teeter in any way. Easy, right? Good right here. This one is just a bit high because it hit on the head of the other one. So we're gonna grab our hammer and we're gonna tap that down. Make sure it's nice and flat. So overdriven nails, when we find those, that shingle has to be replaced because it has been damaged by that overdriven nail. It's blown through the shingle. So if we leave that shingle in place and water gets to that area, it's going to get under the shingle and of course onto the deck, leading to a leak inside the home. So right here we have a separation between the shingles, and if we pull that out, we find we got a nail in there. A lot of times nails that are underdriven or nails that have backed out, we use the term nail pop in that instance, will cause the shingles to lift, and of course wind can get a hold of that shingle and tear it off. So we want to make sure that our roofs lay nice and flat on the deck. We don't have any imperfections. Penetrations can be these pipes, that can be heat exhaust vents, things like that. A lot of times it's not our guys that do the heat exchangers or the exhaust vents, so it's the HVAC guys. And periodically we have to go back and seal around those because they haven't done it right. Well, they haven't been trained to do these appropriately. I'm going to show you how we deal with penetrations. We're going to take our fixture, this is called a pipe boot, and we're going to put that on. We're going to run it down on here. Okay. Okay, so we got our shingle trimmed, the top of it, and run a few more rows, cut them back. Or sometimes they'll run a whole elevation and then cut the whole thing back all at once. I always like to do it as I go. So getting to valleys, there's several different types of valley, but everybody that I've seen doing a California cut neglects to do the most important part of that, and that is seal down the overhanging row. Okay, now we're going to line this up, and we'll line that up here, and here. Once we do that, we're ready to tack down the bottom. Most generally, I like to just put 2 nails in the base, holding it down nice and firm, like that, like that. I still like to just use 2. The fewer penetrations we make, the better. So 2 will hold it down nice and firm. As long as you have it pressed down the appropriate way, you're not going to get any buckling. Once it's tacked in and all firmly in place, we're going to grab our sealant. We're going to roll the shingle up, start at the very top, and we're going to get that sealed all in, just like that. Press it back down from the top, down right to the strike zone there, and we're going to come down to the bottom of this shingle. Okay? So water cannot penetrate the side of the pipe boot. We'll get that all pressed down nice and firm. Our sealant will set up in a few hours. Won't be an issue. Now for the nails on the exposure, any exposed nail where you absolutely have to have one needs to be sealed. Otherwise, it's going to start rusting very rapidly, causing us an issue. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the sealant on there, and we're going to swirl that around. And what that does is that helps adhere the sealant to the metal or to whatever material you have. A lot of these are plastic. This is a nice metal one. These are really, really nice. Swirl that around again, and then we're going to lift it up, and it's completely done, right? Just like that. Is to take your sealant and go around, and it doesn't take a lot of sealant on there. This is just So one thing we don't want to see is we don't want to see these shingles cut, and we don't want our ventilation over the soffit. No reason to ventilate that area because it's not inside the house. So we're trying to ventilate the inside attic space. So if we're out here, that's not going to happen. It's a useless procedure. cut back about where the overhang would start, okay, leaving our vented area in our roof system open. So this is one of the last things that our installers will do is cut these ventilations open, like so, okay. Just like that. Cut that right along here. We only need our exposed edge right here. And this is the only shingle where you can actually nail through the face of the shingle. I like to nail them nice and firmly. Come off up there. Just like that. We start the first lining up with the edge of the shingle. These, you can use your nail gun because they're firmly against the deck. Take the next one, we lay it on, and we roll that down, catch the other side. Next shingle, just like that. Here's our ridge vent. We want to kind of form that a little bit. So we're going to set that on just like this. Start this a few shingles in, away from the edge, so we're not ventilating the soffit area again. So but we're going to set this on here full length for our demonstration here. So this is where these nails come into play, as I explained before. These are your ridge vent nails. So we're going to tack this down using our ridge vent nails, and we're going to tack that in like so, and of course in the front. We can start with our cap shingles. Again, our capping shingles right here. We're going to start, we're going to bring that approximately 1 inch over the end of the ridge vent. And then you have a nice line to keep it nice and straight right along the top of the ventilation area. So we're going to nail that in here, making sure we don't overdrive the nail. And I like to keep my nails about 1.5 inches away from the edge. It's going to hold them nice and firm. Next shingle, again, approximately 5.5 inches. We're going to line it up on the front side so that we have a nice appearance from the front of the home. When we come back from the other way and the capping meets, up like so. A common mistake that I see, it's usually the last thing they do. It's getting dark, sometimes they forget. We have 4 nails that are exposed. We need to seal those up so that we don't have any issues with that. And this is what GAF taught us to do, is make a little button, covering up the nail head completely, making sure you get a little bit under the edge of it there, pull it up, and you're done, just like that. Just like that. And we're done. In rare case, some homeowners do ask about nails penetrating into their attic. It's something that can't be helped. Our nails have to go through the deck to be secure, especially the ridge vent nails. So if they don't penetrate all the way through, they're not going to be secure, they're not going to hold appropriately. So when we're using a 3-tab roof, we can actually use this 3-tab shingle as our starter strip in whole or in half. Okay, so a lot of times, and it is an acceptable practice, I don't particularly like it because the adhesive is 6 inches in away from the edge of the roof. I like that edge to be secure. So what we can do is we can actually strip that down here from the keyways, straight down this way, and we can make this. So this is from a 3-tab shingle. I made myself a starter strip, which we can put, and as you can see, our adhesive now is at the edge of the roof. So there's 2 ways you can use a 3-tab shingle as a starter strip. Preferably, I like the manufactured starter strips from our manufacturer. All we have to do is take them apart, as you saw me do earlier. We tack them down, we're good to go. So 3 ways that we can do the starter strip. So you saw me earlier take a shingle. So this is part of a 3-tab shingle. There's the lower tab. So I'm going to flip the shingle upside down, and I'm going to slightly angle cut from the keyway to the top of the shingle, making a cap shingle. Okay, so that's one way you can finish off your roof. Or we could purchase the Seal Ridge shingles, which is our hip and ridge shingles, and mostly we use these for extended warranties. So when we offer extended warranty and the customer wants that extended warranty, these shingles are perforated, so we just fold them a couple of times, tear them off, and they are ready to go. Fitting right up on the ridge, just like that. This is called overexposure, okay? So your exposure is supposed to be from the top of the keyway up, okay? Only this portion of this shingle needs to be exposed. When you have this area has to be taken off, typically about 3 rows, to make the correct adjustment so that you don't have this overexposure going on. So you have an overexposed shingle here, and a couple rows up you can see there's an underexposed shingle. So by taking this area off, it can cause a lot of problems. Wind, which will cause tear off. And it will cause leaks eventually as well. Typically, when we have this problem here, you're going to see exposed nails, because the guys nail right along here and they'll show. And a lot of times roofers, especially from other companies, I've seen this a lot. Older roofs, when we're doing re-roofs, when I inspect those, we see stuff like this where the guys just randomly nailed and randomly staggered, things like that. You have overexposed, underexposed. You have lines horizontally that are going up and down. So all of those will create problems for your roof system, and it will not last as long as it should. So we want to make sure that right from the beginning, we have our shingles installed properly, whether it be 3-tab or architectural or even metal. We want to make sure that we do this by the book so that we don't have any problems with our roofs. So we want our customers to be satisfied. We want them to stay dry.
Or the straps underneath, there's straps that hold them up. This can get moved up and down. This is a tight boot. Once that starts moving up and down, it's cracking our boot. So that's an argument that you can have.
And when these are cut nice and tight and they're real snug to the pipe and they start moving them up and down, it will invert the collar like that. It's a water trap. So, and that'll cause a leak as well. So we don't want to see that. I've seen a lot of inverted pipe boots. Right. So if we just caulk over these, it's still gonna be an issue.
Because the water gonna be able to go
right. So
covering it, right?
Exposed caulking is a temporary fix. Okay. To appropriately repair this shingle, it has to be replaced. However, the longevity, the lifespan of a lead boot is much longer than a standard. So the standard has a plastic base with a PVC collar. So that PVC collar will wear out over time much sooner than the lead pipe boot. Both have their advantages, both have their drawbacks. So one of the drawbacks to the lead boots is that squirrels absolutely love them. They chew on them. Once a squirrel has established a nest in a home, if you block that off, they're going to find another way in, somehow, some way. they're going to chew their way in somehow, some way. So they're going to take the path of least resistance, being the collars, the pipe boots. Anything else?
Good job, Frank.
Thank you.